Yeah, so it was essentially just about 2 or 3 years of really, really difficult experiences, one right after the other. And at a certain point, I recognized that there was some work that had been put on me, and that it was more than just a string of bad luck. It was more than just circumstances. Things were happening as far as like, my car broke down. Overnight when it was just fine, a wheel fell off on my way to work. Just like really unusual things like that. Just lack of stability, lack of security, no matter how hard I worked for it. It was the most difficult 2 years of my entire life. And so, after doing everything I could, all the things in my power that had worked for me before, doing, ritual cleanses, doing meditations, just being very intentional with all of my actions, hoping to just get things reset, and nothing was working. It felt like it was building and building and just becoming more intense. It's so actually difficult to just think back on how that felt, and that was only a few months ago. It got to a point where getting out of bed and functioning, against all of these just like energies that I just felt were just like bearing down on me constantly. And I didn't know what to do. So I reached out to Phoenix and essentially was just like, I believe that I have a lot of stuff going on right now, and would you please, thank God I can reach out to Phoenix for these kind of things, because I'm not sure what would have happened otherwise. It felt like somebody had intentionally put an expiration date on my life, and that things were building to that point. Phoenix very graciously just, told me he was going to help me out, and he was going to do this work with the IDF for me. And it took a couple days for him to do his investigation, and he came back just kind of, what he found really validated everything I was feeling, which, that alone was such a comfort, because at that time I really felt like I was losing my mind and going crazy, and I couldn't get on top of the anxiety and all of the feelings of just like drowning in my own world, in spite of things going seemingly so well. But I wasn't finding work. I wasn't anything. All of my efforts were just not producing any fruit, and I just felt like I was sinking. So Phoenix was able to he was able to validate all of that, which that by itself was the first step to feeling better. Just like, oh my God, because I remember calling you guys and just being like, okay, so it's okay if you think I'm crazy. What I'm about to tell you is actually just like buckle up, but here we go. And so not only was that actually the case, and he was able to determine that with his analysis and his investigation, and he was able to remedy it for me as well. So a lot of it was astrological. There were some telluric curses, and then yes, there was people had been actually cursing me, and he was able to determine all of these things and remedy that for me through the IDF work. I'd say it took about a couple weeks before I really started to feel balanced again, and like I used to before, 2 years prior. But the second the broadcast started, I felt relief. The instant the broadcast started, I felt relief, and I knew. I texted you guys, and I was just like, I think that the broadcast's going now, because I'm feeling so much better. And I left room for just what's it called? Placebo. Yeah, placebo feeling. I was just like, okay, let's see how it feels tomorrow, because it had been 2 years of this, and I didn't have hope anymore. And I woke up the next morning and I still felt great. And in fact, I felt better. There was optimism. It was easier to get out of bed. The next day, it was better. And then just day by day, I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is not going to last, because it was so hard before to gain any ground against all of these frequencies and energies that were working on me. But eventually, I kind of learned that I could relax into this, that this was real, and that this was lasting, and this was over. It was finally over. So 2 years later, I'm starting to feel back into myself again, and just there have been so many interesting side effects that I was not expecting from all of this. My third eye, and just kind of the innate psychic abilities that I already had, I recognized that so much of what the input I was receiving and just giving a lot of credit to It was more like my antenna was just like a radio station scanning and just picking up all kinds of things that I was just putting way too much stock and credibility into. That was probably a lot of these different frequencies and energies trying to direct me, which was part of what that felt like at that time. So all of that was canceled out, and it was just like my own intuition and my own understanding. And so for the first time in so long, it's so interesting. Well, I don't have the anxiety that prompts me to do different kinds of things that were happening back then. Just like I used to have such an urgency. I have to have this conversation, do this thing, go to this place, have this experience. And none of it would feel good, but I would just feel so compelled to do it, against my better judgment and against my own self-interest. And yeah, so since then, I'm just kind of like adjusting into understanding what it feels like to like have my own like self-interest be the forefront of like my thought process. And that's so much right there. What else? My eyes have changed color, which I think is connected to the third eye kind of cleansing, because when you have so much of that just like constant, just like assault on your psychic abilities, it's spiritual abuse, and they're trying to like shut down like your connection to source, yourself, and all of these different things. So my third eye went through a purge where like I would have like huge just like zits right here, right in that spot. And it was just like this cleansing that Phoenix kind of like likened to like peeling off layers of an onion. And that's what it's been like, just like every month or so that will come up again, which sounds awful, but it's actually great because it feels lighter every time. And yeah, just having that physical manifestation of the energetic clearing is wonderful. And then I think correlated to that, my eyes have changed color. This eye is now darker, this eye is now lighter, which I think is, connected to all of the higher chakra stuff as well. But yeah, just overall total cleansing, more joy, more gratitude for what I have, less fear, more confidence, just an overall feeling of security and just understanding that I am being supported and I don't have to worry about the things that I always worried about before. And it's incredible that frequency can do that. It's incredible that frequency by itself can do that much damage and do that much healing. And I'm just so grateful because I had tried everything that I had in my ability, things that had worked before, and I was just at a loss. I was at the end of my rope, and I kind of didn't care I didn't care anymore, like how things were going to unfold for me. And this was just like my last ditch effort to get my life back and to just get myself back. So, and it worked. Yay! Yes.